everybody. It's Stewart A. Swordlow.
And Janet Diane Moya Swordlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the second week of October 2016. Isn't it a lovely time of the year?
Yes.
Yes. And I finally came home, and I had a very good trip to Europe. Italy was a little interesting, and I did have big crowds in Milan and Pescara. And Italians are starting to wake up to the truth of the world, and most of them, to my great surprise, reject Catholicism and the Vatican, which is a real, for Italy, that's like really surprising. But I have been asked to return to Italy in November, and actually for several times in 2017. But I drove, actually took a bus from Pescara to Rome, and in between I saw all the quake destruction, which was sad to see all the houses all boarded up and collapsed and all of that. But what's interesting is there's a mountain range on the way to Rome from the east coast of Italy, from the Adriatic Sea towards the west, which where strange events occur.
So you mean if you went from the west to the east, it wouldn't be there?
No, you only see it from going east to west. That's right.
I just needed to clarify. Well, that's what you said. Go ahead.
I didn't say it like that.
Yeah, you did. On a mountain range, if you go from east
like
to west.
Yeah, you can see it both ways, but I went from east to west.
I know that.
Okay,
Pescara to Roma goes that direction.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to clarify. You can see it if you actually go the other way too.
Okay, back to me.
It already was back to
I will be doing more research on this area the next time that I go back. Now, Belgium was actually very amazing. Packed audiences, they're very interested in my work. It's actually the first time I worked in Belgium. I've been there before, but never actually to work there. Brussels airport is still not back to full swing. There's military all over the place, a lot of security, and in fact, when you come out of the airport, there's this huge tent that they set up, all filled with military people, and they check everything. But I snuck around it. There's a way you can sneak into the parking garage, but you didn't hear that from me. Anyway, then it was on to Holland, which is a very different place. I'm sorry, Dutch people are weird. And they're very strange, but they're nice people. And what's very interesting to me is the rivalry between Holland and Belgium. Could you believe that? They're each the size of a pea, and they are in rivalry with each other. It's very interesting that in the EU, no one likes each other. It's kind of a big fake umbrella of control and unity. And by the way, I said, do you prefer to be called Holland or Netherlands? And the people in the south prefer Holland, and the people in the north prefer Netherlands. Very strange, don't you think? But they're all like wooden shoes and windmills. So that's what unifies them, actually, and Gouda cheese. And then I was on to Berlin, which was very busy, worked till very late at night, had many fascinating meetings there, which maybe one day I'll be able to discuss it. Crime in Germany has increased heavily. There's many home break-ins, street attacks that occur now. It's not the way that it used to be, and this is leading to the rise of right-wing extremists with Nazi-like ideas. So in effect, it's a new, like a Fourth Reich, not the kind of Fourth Reich I've told you about associated with Antarctica and the Kuiper Belt, but a Fourth Reich associated with on-the-ground anti-minority ideas. Then I was on to Russia briefly. You know what? It's a whole bunch of propaganda, what they say about Russia. Things in Moscow are peaceful, they're calm. It's just like anywhere else that you would go. The Russian people are the same as anyone else and want the same things as Americans and Europeans. And it's very clear that the Western media has hyped up information against Russia, which is just not true. And plus they gave me extra chocolate.
In Russia?
Yeah. With little square chocolates with like a little Kremlin stamp on it.
But they're not known for chocolate in Russia.
Well, then they could have been like they put implants that I swallowed in there. Yeah. But it tasted really good.
Good implants.
Mm-hmm. Now, and may I talk about other news?
You don't have to ask my permission. That's why you're
Yeah.
here. That's what they're expecting.
Well, okay, so in other news, briefly, because I haven't had a lot of time since I just got back, but scientists have discovered a new fault line that runs parallel to the San Andreas fault line, and it's now believed that Southern California is in more danger than previously thought. Well, I told them before.
You've been saying that for years.
Yes, and recently, in the last few weeks, there has been a swarm of earthquakes around the Salton Sea, and this, they said, could be a precursor to a very major quake. And there's also been increased seismic and volcanic activity in Japan, Siberia, and underneath the Pacific Ocean, especially towards the southern, like Tonga, Fiji, those South Pacific islands, and a lot actually near New Zealand.
Vanuatu.
What do I want to what? What?
Vanuatu.
Ivana what?
You want to have steak?
She married Trump.
Vanuatu.
Vanuatu, yeah. Vanuatu was married to Trump a long time ago. Anyway, and what's in the news too, Russia, of course, has been pounding the rebels in Syria, and Russia has a stake in Syria because there's a warm water port in Syria on the Mediterranean that Russia needs because, in the wintertime they really don't have a warm water port. And so they also are interested in the area to eliminate the threat to Israel. That's why Netanyahu and Putin are friends, so close, because Russia wants to develop the vast gas and oil under the eastern Mediterranean. And Russia also wants to keep Iran under its umbrella of control. And as you know, as I spoke about it in my historical seminars and lectures, that in the 1930s, the Soviet Union wanted Iran as a Soviet republic, and I think they still do.
And so what about the U.S.?
What about? They want the U.S. as a Soviet republic too, yes.
Yes, but the U.S. and Russia now are kind of odds over this thing in Syria. It's all over the news.
U.S. media or Western media will always pick something. If someone in Russia spits out the window, they'll say, Russia, sent the fog bomb to Europe. That's how they are. They just attack Russia for every little thing. Not that the Russians are perfect, but the Western media hypes up all the activity, and most of it is not true. And I tell you, people, just go to Russia and you will see for yourself. It's a very nice, lovely, calm place.
Okay, so for me.
And now to you.
All right.
I'll say the rest after.
Okay, so of course we're still ongoing with the presidential election show.
Yeah, that's like the biggest comedy show on earth.
The thing is, remember, this is all pre-planned. Then as closer it gets, the more they ramp up the stakes, so to speak, because they want to be sure you're focused on it.
Only a month left.
That's right. So now they're dragging up, I'm sure you've heard by now, the Trump files that he said about groping women, blah, blah. So then after they pulled that, then now they have a new thing about how that Trump bragged to Howard Stern about Ivanka Svade.
Yeah,
that's his daughter, right? And he was saying that the host could refer to her as a piece of A space S.
S. Okay, just say it.
Like a
We're
donkey.
not censored here.
Like a donkey. Well, if they put it, sometimes they say they want a family-friendly show. So.
But we're not family-friendly. We're not friendly, actually.
Sometimes that's what people say to me. They want to be able to put it on their family-friendly show. So that's why I have to be
This
careful.
is not for children, people.
Well, they're doing it whether we want it or not. So let me please finish.
Go on.
And commenting to Stern that, quote, she's actually always been very voluptuous. So that was in 2005. Then
I wouldn't even say that about you in public, let alone my own daughter.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, maybe I would say it for a certain amount.
No, you wouldn't. So no, it's a very derogatory way to speak of women. Period.
But your own child.
Especially your own child. And yes, and your own wife would be horrible. Anyway, so back in 2002, then he claimed that leaving women after a certain age is a good idea. He said 30 was a perfect age to leave them, adding that the age of 35 would be definitely checkout time.
What does that mean?
Get rid of them.
They're too old?
Yes.
35 is too old?
Yes. And then in a 2000 clip, Stern asked Trump if he had an age limit or if he thought that he could be banging 24-year-olds, and Trump said absolutely, he'd have no problem. Then in a 1997, why are they going back? In 1997
wait a
interview.
second. Could he just be joking, making fun?
No, and then he said that he lost his virginity about 14.
That old?
Yeah, with hot little girls in high school or grammar school or whatever. And he also talked about having sex with women who are going through their menstrual cycle, saying, well, sometimes you get there by mistake, and then whether or not he had slept with any black women. And he said that depends on your definition of black. And then in 93, he told Stern he couldn't care less if he satisfied women in bed or not.
It's all about me.
Then in 2005, he said that, of course, if any Miss Universe contestants offered themselves, he wouldn't want to hurt their feelings.
By not saying yes.
By not saying no.
Oh, whatever.
So he wouldn't worry. So then he wouldn't worry about having sex with a contestant being a conflict of interest, because it's a thing you worry about later. Because as the owner of the pageant,
when they sue you, then you
it's your
worry about
definition to worry about conflict of interest. So then he said he also likes to sneak backstage at the Miss Universe contests when the women were naked, so he could inspect them.
And they just stand there and let him do it.
Because he walks in, he says, "I'm the owner. I have to make sure that there's nothing illegal going on."
Okay, so if you were in the Miss Universe contest naked backstage, and he walked in, you say, "Oh, okay," because you're the owner.
Slap him. And so anyway, I'm just telling you that this is now what's going on. This is the show. It's like the what do they used to call it, Punch and Judy show when we were kids. You know, Trump and Hillary and Trump.
Nobody's
this
going to know
is
what
the
that
show.
means.
Well, I said when we were kids. So you have to be
in the
our
Middle
age.
Ages.
You have to look that up. And then Sharia law. Trump praised Saudi Arabia's Sharia law for making it easy for men to get divorced. Donald Trump said, "Saudi Arabia sounds like a very good place to get a divorce. I'm Donald Trump, and that's the real deal." Remember, he's been divorced twice, married 3 times, and therefore between 2008 and 2004, he recorded a daily 60-second commentary titled Trumped. And so the Wall Street Journal has now published these recordings, which contains his views on Sharia law and marriage. And in this episode, he claimed that a Saudi man divorced his wife for watching television show alone because he perceived it as equivalent to her being alone with a man.
You know what? If he went to Saudi Arabia, they would probably cut his head off.
Probably. But he says that men in Saudi Arabia have the authority to divorce their wives without going to courts. I guess that would mean they don't need prenuptial agreements. The fact is, no courts, no judges. Saudi Arabia sounds like a very good place to get a divorce. I'm Donald Trump, and that's the real deal.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah. Saudi Arabia treats all people like dirt, but women are like below dirt.
Right. So now this...
And we give them billions of dollars a year for that.
And this is the next part of the show. And speaking of Putin...
Don't you say nothing bad about Putin, because that's when I loses it.
Okay, so this isn't anything bad per se. It's just a notation that there was a giant poster of him.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
There was a banner bearing his image, and underneath the words Peacemaker. It had the Russian flag.
Yeah, piece of Ukraine, a piece of Belarus.
The Syrian flag, and the word Peacemaker. Well, it was interesting, apparently back in 2014, there was a Putin-themed trinket area in New York's Gramercy.
What does that mean, Gramercy?
Well, this one, they must be misspelling the article.
Yes,
in Gramercy neighborhood. And they called that Putin-themed trinket shop Peacemaker.
So what does that mean?
Well, I just think it's interesting they brought it up again for whatever reason. So they're imprinting people. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting. And then the banner, of course, has been removed. And then Hurricane Matthew has also been big in the news.
Yeah.
Now, what was interesting, this news anchor named Shep Smith.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
But remember, it's still scripted, so why are they saying this? And he said about the Hurricane Matthew, quote, "You and everyone you know are dead. This moves 20 miles to the west, and you and everyone you know are dead, all of you, because you can't survive it. It's not possible unless you're very, very lucky, and your kids die too."
Okay, his name is Shep. Who names their kid Shep?
Well, it must be something else. And then he spoke to a Floridian woman who didn't want to leave her home, and he said, "I'll ask her why she's staying and if she expects us to cover her funeral."
He sounds like a brilliant... I've seen him on TV, man. He's brain dead.
But the point is, it's still scripted, and he's just saying what he's told to say. And then, in the Floridians that didn't leave, apparently they threw a lot of parties, and some of them even dressed up as dinosaurs on the beach.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
Why?
Because Florida is very reptilian.
And?
And what?
And why would they dress up as dinosaurs?
Because it's Florida.
Yeah, well, still...
They're not very bright people there.
Still,
if they were bright, they wouldn't live there.
But they're still getting coverage. So something they're imprinting people with, obviously. And then climate change scientist Peter Wadhams, who's a professor, it doesn't say where, predicted in 2012 that the Arctic would be ice-free by September of 2016.
Brilliant.
And of course it's not, as we all know.
In fact, what is it?
There's more than ever.
Yeah.
It says figures show that there was a 1.6 million square miles of sea ice last month.
That's what I told you, people. There's an ice age coming. There's no global warming.
Yeah. And then moving on, now this is the latest thing in the clowns in the news. It's all over the news. Is about clowns. So there was one school district, and I'm sure it's the beginning of many, in New Haven, Connecticut, who says no clowns costumes for Halloween this year.
Yeah, really, because no clowns for Halloween, right?
Yeah, and then it goes on to say that there were Instagram accounts with threatening messages to children. New Haven's Clowns 123, watch out. Your school is next. We're coming for little kids. And then the pro-clown business, the professional clown business, says that it's tanking because of the scary clown sightings.
But we know what that is, don't we?
Well, you can tell them now or later. It doesn't matter.
So you tell me.
Well, I've told them before, but you can tell them too.
And I think this is in my work somewhere, isn't it?
I think it's in the 13 Cubed book.
Right. The clowns are part of IS programming, which stands for Intelligence Spectrum. It's very dangerous because it is only designed for certain people, a certain kind of mind pattern and genetics, who have these clowns as a trigger to bump them up through certain functions to a new level of programming. However, the lessons or the functions are so dangerous that you could die through the process, and they don't care because either you're going to live or die. So it's a very, very dangerous situation.
Yeah, and they're obviously triggering a lot of people with all these things that are going on. So be sure and use the brown merger symbol, do your deprogramming work, all the things we teach you about. But this is very interesting because we had talked about a year or so, and there's a group called, I think, the Jugglers or something like that.
I remember that.
Yeah, and that those were starting to be, prominent, but now they're not really talking about that group.
No, because now that was the trigger, a precursor trigger. Now they have the activation.
Yeah, and then anyway, so professional clowns are upset because apparently they're not wanting to be hired, and people are now wanting
clowns. Okay.
Balloon animal artist, face painter, and they don't want clowns. And so now, this is also interesting.
I call it the bozo syndrome.
It says, expect a whole new generation of kids growing up terrified of clowns with the new screen version of It, which is a Stephen King book, scheduled to hit theaters next year.
It's about clowns?
It's about clowns.
Well, when I was little, I was afraid of clowns.
I was afraid of clowns too, and most kids are. Yeah, the novel It was written in 1986 by Stephen King about clowning. Let's see.
No, he's scary even without makeup.
Yeah. It's a novel about a demon who terrorizes a town in Maine dressed as a clown.
Maine, it's always in Maine.
So some people are saying, okay, is this a clown epidemic a joke or advertising for a horror film? But like we talked about, it's really a deeper meaning, which is this IS programming.
This is a weird thing.
Yeah, and now it says, this was also interesting, that an 11-year-old girl was arrested for bringing a knife to school to fight clowns. Now, again, why do you arrest an 11-year-old girl? Why don't you just take her to the office?
They tasered her and beat the shit out of her, too. Right?
And she said she was released to her parents. She said she was afraid for her family, so she brought it to school. But again, we don't arrest 11-year-olds.
What parent doesn't check their 11-year-old's stuff to see what they're bringing?
Well, I understand that these days. I've seen all these things happen, but the point is you still don't arrest 11-year-olds. You take them to the office, you call in their parents, and you get it settled. You don't arrest them. And then there was a man dressed as a clown in Sterling Heights, Michigan, which injured a boy with a knife. And Sterling Heights is a Detroit suburb. And then apparently the same evening, 2 women report that they were approached by 3 men dressed as clowns with baseball bats.
And what happened to them? They
didn't say. It was just reported. And then it said in October 2nd in northern Michigan there was a clown incident.
What's it where the clowns were attracted to Michigan now?
An incident in Muskegon forced a school into soft lockdown. It says nearly 20 states have reported clown sightings. And now organizers, now get this one, this is Clown Lives Matter. There's
please.
A march in...
Do they need their own bathroom too?
March in Tucson, Arizona for October 15th.
Well, I'll be there a week later.
And the other thing, they're saying this is a peaceful way to show that clowns are not psycho killers. Well, you know what? And they're encouraged to be dressed up in their masks. So what a perfect place to put in the psycho killers, right? And have a real chaos break out. And of course, just before Halloween again. So, and remember, the more they tell you not to focus on something, the more you focus on it. So the more they say don't pay attention to clowns, don't do clowns, the more people are looking for
And
clowns.
now they'll have transgender clowns.
All kinds of things. And then in Newark, Ohio, there were runners that supposedly captured a video of a clown with a knife chasing them through the woods. So if somebody's chasing you with a knife through the woods, you're going to turn around and videotape them, right?
I think they should beat the crap out of the clowns.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's obviously,
That's
as
what
we
I
talked
think.
about, it's a trigger.
If anyone does that to me,
device.
the clown, beat the crap out of them.
And now this was also interesting because you and I have talked about the furry community on and off through the years. We've been aware of that. We've had clients who've been a part of the furry community. Now we have a triple murder.
And we love our furry friends, don't we?
Well, this is now bringing the furry community.
Speaking of furry friends, and Michigan, you know that a Bigfoot was sighted here.
Yes, I posted that on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
It was caught supposedly on an eagle can in northern Michigan, of course.
Some people thought it was me, but it wasn't.
Yeah, no, it wasn't because you were overseas at the
Right.
time. But anyway, so we've talked about now the clowns. Now we're moving into the furry community. The furry subculture consists of people drawn to anthropomorphic creatures,
Watch your language.
which interact as their animal identities online and attend conventions dressed in so-called fursuits. Well, a local woman who is popular among the Orange County furry subculture in California, her husband and their friend were killed by two men, 21 and 25-year-olds, who were also connected to the furry fandom.
Oh.
So again, now we have clowns that are coming forward.
So it's like a furry civil war.
Kind of, and we have furry creatures coming forward.
A furry serial killer.
Yeah, so there's, all these things, people in mass doing things, and part of New World Religion is dressing up in some of these kind of
And that's
things.
why I said everyone should just be naked.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're telling
That's
me today.
it.
And then you know what's in front of you, I guess, so
Yeah.
to speak. So, with that said, moving right along, now we talked about Iraq some time back, about Iraq. One of the reasons they invaded them because they wanted their secrets.
Yes. Well,
Right?
they wanted what's underneath Baghdad.
Which was?
The Stargate.
Right. Now, listen to this. Iraqi transport minister claims the first airport was built 7,000 years ago in Iraq by ancient Sumerians. They said, this is an Iraqi minister claimed that the ancient Sumerians traveled to Pluto in spaceships thousands of years ago. He told this to reporters.
How do you know that?
That the world's first airport was built there in around 5000 BC. He said that the ancient civilization of Sumer, one of the oldest known societies, used the airport for space exploration and discovered Pluto.
Why
And then
Pluto?
he went on to claim that angels were all Sumerian, and Sumerian spaceships used to launch from here towards other planets.
Well, that makes sense because Iraqi Airlines planes are about 5,000 years old.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I just thought that was very interesting. And speaking of airlines, did you hear what Hawaiian Airlines is now doing?
You get laid when you go on board. They put the laid over you.
Anyway, they said that Hawaiian Airlines is now they're requiring that their passengers get weighed in.
Weighed and laid. That's perfect, advertisement for Hawaiian Airlines.
It says that they physically stopped an American Samoan businessman who was trying to board a flight after he purchased his ticket from Pago Pago to Honolulu, and they required him to physically step on a scale. So he filed a complaint against the airlines, but Hawaiian Airlines said that the airline no longer allows passengers to pre-select seats on these flights and will now weigh passengers at check-in before allocating seats.
Well, like a small plane? Is that
They
it?
said, therefore, they can assign weight distribution this way. And, of course, the Department of Transportation is putting this under investigation, but my opinion is, do you want to give your opinion first?
First of all, if they did that to American citizens, no one would be able to fly ever. Number one. And number two, have you seen Hawaiian people?
But the point...
They could never go anywhere.
The point is, again, this is another way to dehumanize you and make you feel like an animal. They line you up, they crowd you on, they don't feed you, they're terrible to people, and now they're going to just pull you off in front of everybody and weigh you. And who's going to be the people to decide who's going to get weighed and who's not going to get weighed? Or they just have to decide to weigh everybody as a matter of not discriminating.
I think they should weigh the clowns and the furries.
So I think that it's really, again, it's another step to dehumanize you and make you feel like an animal.
Is that the only airline that's doing that?
So far, but they always start with one, and then there's somebody else picks it up, and this one and that one, or they'll do the size of plane or whatever.
Well, I think it's very funny because Hawaiian Airlines, you see these Hawaiian women, they're like 400 pounds.
Men can be huge as well. They, it's just like anywhere else. Some are large, some are small, but it doesn't matter. And once they start weighing everybody and doing
They're
it,
discriminating against their own people.
it's all terrible. Anyway, and then going on a little bit further that direction, Australia. It says Australia becomes the first country to begin microchipping its public.
Well, I don't think so.
It said NBC News predicted that all Americans would be microchipped by 2017.
Too late.
And back in 2010, CBS reported that the Australian government had a potential RFID microchipping plan in the works related to the healthcare system. However, they want people to, sign up for this. So it seems that the plan has begun to unfold, but the push is not health related, but it's a clever propaganda campaign that equates microchipping with becoming superhuman, making people beg for it. So it says, hundreds of Australians are turning themselves into superhumans who can unlock doors, turn on lights, log into computers with a wave of a hand. And Shanti Corporal from Sydney, it says, is at the center of the phenomena after having 2 implants inserted under her skin. She can get into work and her car without carrying a card or keys. And she says her ultimate goal is to do away with her wallet and her cards. And then this little thing that's the size of a grain of rice can act like a business card, transfer contact details to smartphones, and hold complex medical data. And then she claims that her family and friends are envious of her microchip lifestyle, and even her grandmother wants one, and she's had more opposition to tattoos than the microchip. She said all her friends are jealous, and says if you think the elites wouldn't capitalize on such exceptional opportunity to control the population, you obviously don't know history very well. Well, they're already doing it, now they're telling you they're doing it, and they're having you line up for it. Like we had told you many times, they're not going to force people to do anything. They line up so people want to do it. And then back in 2005, someone named Groff Straw was one of the first RFID implantees, and he just made headlines recently in the U.S. with a prototype of the world's first implant-activated smart gun.
What is that?
They did not say. And he said he's written a book, he's spoken at TEDx, and also appeared in a number of documentaries. And of course, he's been interviewed with the Australians now, and he explains that the technology he has implanted into his body has given, quote, me the ability to communicate with machines. It's literally integrated into who I am, unquote. Like it's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, we're continuing to tell you about, in the mainstream news, they're talking a lot about people's spirits leaving their bodies. So
just like every week.
Every week, or some practically every day. And so here's one in Thailand. I have the link up for you that they say people claim to see a woman's body leaving after a fatal accident. And
Did
then,
you see that? I didn't see that.
Yeah, I saw it. And then as a side, it's a picture. I think it's not a video. It's a picture. And so people are saying, "Oh, it's the trees, it's shadows. Oh no, it's a spirit." So they want to make it so people are guessing what they're seeing. And then this was also interesting in light of what we just said, because this is a clip that was filmed in 2012.
Oh.
So if it was filmed in 2012, why are they just now bringing it forward?
Because now it could trigger you.
Well, and so it's about a lorry driver in Russia who swerves to avoid a ghost-like man. And
I saw that one.
Yeah,
That's
and
very weird.
now they're saying the video has been hailed as proof of teleportation because they want that word out there. And some say no, it's suicide. Well, they also want suicide programming out there. So a lot of triggers are going on.
Suicide video.
Because they're claiming it was somebody that stepped in front of it that wanted to be hit. So. And then this is my last story about a millionaire man who marries his granddaughter by mistake. And remember, we've told you that one of the newest things is not only pedophilia and also incest relationships. And there's a name for it, and I can't remember. I reported on that maybe while you were gone. He's 68. His granddaughter's 24. They met online in some dating service. The man was estranged from her father, and so she didn't know the grandfather, and something clicked. They fell in love, and then 3 months after they were married, lo and behold, they find out that they're related. And so they've decided not to annul the relationship. And it says if the couple has a child together, the father of the child would also be the child's great-grandfather.
What?
Yeah.
Wait. If they have a child.
The father of the child would also be the child's great-grandfather. Because she's marrying her grandfather. So,
how freaky is that?
yeah, but my point being is, these incestuous relationships, they're continuing to move those forward for people.
Wow.
So anyway, just all kinds of weirdness going on. So this is why really you must do your hyperspace oversoul work so you don't get pulled into this.
Is it any wonder the aliens do what they do?
Well, of course, if we're doing it to our own people.
Humans are so stupid.
Well, unfortunately, and people are accepting and thinking it's all wonderful. So, you know, you go down the path and they set the water trough and you drink it, you know, nobody to blame but yourself.
Especially if there's vodka in it, then I will drink out of that trough.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, we have a lot of new events
Yes, and here it is in front of you.
in front of me. Well, why don't you tell your events?
Well, I'll be going to Tucson for the transformational shift. You be very careful when you say
I
that.
know, I'm very careful. You have to put the F in there, shift.
Yeah.
But you're only going to be
Because
there.
shift happens sometimes.
Yes, but you're only going to be there October 22, so that's what I tell
Well,
people.
I arrive on the 21.
Yeah, but you don't.
And I leave on the 23.
Yeah, but you only have a 90-minute.
But they only let me out of my room on the 22nd.
Right, for a 90-minute Q&A thing, I think.
Yeah, which maybe I have no keynote, I just sit there.
Personally, I said I thought you should be a keynote speaker.
Yeah, but I'm not.
I know.
And that's not going to happen.
I know.
But other people are
That's
coming
what
to
I
see
think.
me, so I'm going to have a good time anyway.
Well, yeah, you always will.
Yeah. And then I'm off to Ukraine, Armenia, Russia, Poland, and Italy. But in Poland on October 29 is the Exposing the Truth conference, which I hope all of you, especially in Europe, will attend. It is in the Old City Square in the Dom Literari. It's on the speedstart.com.pl as well as expansions. It's on expansions.com as well. I am the Master of Ceremonies and I'm also a presenter. And then I come home on November 4. What's the next day?
Guy Fawkes Day,
Which is,
a Saturday,
yes.
the day before a Sunday, November 5.
Yeah, which I think everybody knows what that day is. And then I leave like a few days later to Australia and Singapore.
Yeah.
And I might be back in Germany in December.
Now we're waiting to hear on that one. And then, of course, what happens in January?
January is your birthday.
That's right.
But,
When I turn older and smarter.
well, older.
And smarter.
And
And
it's also the week-long, say it,
let's see if you know what it is.
it's our week-long January class.
Yeah, Hyperspace Oversoul Extravaganza.
Right, that's
Too
that's
long a
correct.
words and too
I
complicated for
cannot
him.
remember that.
Yes,
but-
it's too long for him. And too complicated, because remember, he will be 60 on November 5.
Yes, but I don't look 60, do I?
No, you look 160.
In fact, I'll have you know, I was picked up twice on this trip.
You were
By the police, but still I was picked up.
Anyway, so we have those big events that are coming along. And of course, I have also set June 2017 as my tour to back, my Clear Health and Healing tour back to the Alps in northern
Yeah,
Italy,
I can't
somewhere
think
like
that
that.
far ahead.
Well, I have, because I'm very excited to be going back again. And remember, we do have our Hyperspace Plus and our Healing Archetypes and Symbols books that are out now. You can get 2 in an envelope, which helps with postage, especially for overseas. This one is out on Kindle right now. So
it is?
it's out on Kindle. This one's being put on Kindle. And this one's available on Amazon. This one not quite, but it's getting there. It's close. So remember, 2 books in an envelope, and sometimes 3. I can get them in there, but it's the post office. They have terrible overseas prices. It's a way of
Yeah,
helping.
that's a scam at U.S. Post Office.
But it's a way of keeping people from getting the
But
information.
they never were like that before.
Well, it's worse. They just changed it last, I think, April or
That's
something.
awful what they did.
Yeah, but it was bad then, and I thought $26 for a package up to 4 pounds. Now they're weighing it. You can only do 1 book for 32 to 35, and then they keep adding on. So they
That's
changed all
crazy.
that. It's a way
You
of
could
keeping-
drive it there faster
Just
and
about.
cheaper.
So if you have friends, get things together because the cost per item goes down the more
Order a
you
case. Order a case and
Yeah.
it'll be cheaper.
It will. So that's what I know.
Yeah, that wasn't too much then, what you know.
Apparently not.
No, but I'll be here next week.
Don't
Again.
look at me.
I
You're
will
60.
be.
Is your memory slipping?
Well,
Almost 60.
According to my children, they said that I'm starting to smell from the deterioration of my internal organs.
No, I didn't want to say anything, but
Yeah.
that you should participate in my fasting webinars. Those are group blog fasts, which are free. if you're a member of the
Yes.
site.
Fasting is starvation is free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I have my self-healing webinars that just started again for
On
October,
Wednesdays.
Wednesdays. So now you have to wait till the November sessions if you want to join those again. So we always have lots of things going on, like our Facebook pages. Be sure and join our membership side where we have lots of things going on.
Right.
And we will speak soon.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.